transfer of the relationship with forest and biodiversity to a different plane where you look for money because your livelihood is lost, your relationship, culture, spirituality is lost, is where the market comes in. And that's where you see the carbon offset guys come in saying that, you will get money if you do this and that. So basically, that's how. In terms of the UN, what she was referring to, if you go back to the Rio, so Rio had 3 conventions: the UNFCCC, the UNCCD, and CBD. From the very beginning, though there was a need to address perhaps this separately, but there was also this thing that somewhere these conventions should come together at some point of time. And this has unfortunately not happened. So we are discussing in silos desertification. We are discussing in silos biodiversity and then climate change, which is a relationship which is related to both. If you see climate change and if you go to Sahel in Africa, the kind of desertification that is happening is also due to climate change. And then at the same time, the biodiversity loss is also due to climate change and more due to deforestation. Once you deforest a forest, then the biodiversity is completely lost. So there's a huge relationship, symbiotic, between these 3 issues. But unfortunately, the UN has not been able to manage, and then we are working in silos, though there have been efforts to see that these 2 conventions at least come together, climate and biodiversity, and we're hearing about UNCCD also, desertification. But then how UN has kind of given space to, the UN is run, I would say, by the parties, the governments. They are the ones. But how in course of the years the UN space has also been allowed to be used by the corporates, and then they come into the decision making, the political process, And now you can see the influence of World Economic Forum, the business groups in UN. And if you see every climate week in September in US, the UN Secretary General itself facilitates the dialogue and engagement with the World Economic Forum and Business Forum. But where is the dialogue with the actual actors, the communities, the indigenous peoples and local communities, the women's groups, youth, LGBT community, the communities which face racial impacts of all these, climate change and biodiversity loss? That is somewhere missing. And so to us, if you really want to resolve this crisis, address this crisis, we need to know who are the actors. To us, UN should be a great facilitator. The parties are the next step in the facilitating responsibility, but the actors are the communities. Without them, how do you think of addressing this issue on the ground? Because they know the forest best, they know biodiversity best, they know why the desertification is happening, what to do. And we need mechanisms to support them, to strengthen them, to make things work. We can't expect the corporates to do conservation. What is this? This is a kind of I would say it's not a mechanism. This is a kind of a belief, an ideological framework that they are trying to make us believe that the corporates can conserve nature. How is it possible? They can support, they can contribute, they can finance, but the main work has to be done by the community. So you have to support the communities, both the UN, the parties, and the corporates. But it's the only way now. The other way, they are trying to dominate that what should be the policies, what should be spoken in these corridors of UN, what should be there in the text. Lot of parties, if you see, who are the negotiators? Just take a round of them. A lot of the negotiators are consultants who are being funded by the corporates, both in climate space and in biodiversity space. There are corporates who are behind those negotiators trying to feed them what to say, what not to say. That's the reality that we know. So eventually what you are saying is that, what you are seeing is that if they want to finance, are they willing to finance as a contribution or finance through thinking of return to their shareholders, so making a profit? So ultimately they have to find out ways of mechanisms which can give them profit. That's how the false solutions come in. And we can give you examples of how they could figure out the returns. Like I was talking of monoculture plantations. It's nothing to do with, you know, restoration of forests. More to do with timber, more to do with now feeding as a feedstock to bioenergy plants, you know, more to do with certified logging from which you get, from which you export the raw material to the north, furniture, building construction, everything very well. So it's not really restoration of nature.